Hello, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Cotter, your host, who still doesn't know how to take care of his beard. Um, I look at it and I think it looks fine, but I feel like there's so much more I could do. I don't know how to shave. I know how to make it look okay, I think, but I don't know. Uh, Today I wanted to talk about something which I think has been kind of on my mind recently. So last time I made a video, I pointed out this book that I was reading. It was a wonderful book. I also read this other book, which I don't have in front of me here, but it was really good. It's a book called On Writing and Failure. So, if you don't know, I would like to be an author. That's one of my big ambitions. It's something I've always been passionate about. I've always felt like I've I have something to offer in the world of writing, and and so it would make sense to become an author. I love storytelling. I love exploring different perspectives in the world, and so something like authorship just seems like a very natural thing. Um, but this book kind of changed my perspective. The whole book is just talking about the experience of being a writer with a focus on failure as a writer. And as it turns out, failure is actually very, very common as a writer and even as a creative person in general. You will write and write and you'll write something really great, but just given the way that the world works, that often isn't enough to get your stuff out there. Good writing and hard work isn't enough. Perseverance is the key thing that's going to get you success, maybe, because it's inherently random. You can never guarantee in any form that you'll find success. You just take opportunities as they arise and hope that the sum of all that is enough to support you. And it might not be. That's just the hard truth. It might not be enough to support you. So when you are a writer, you're living amidst a lot of uncertainty. I think in my own life, I've faced quite a few major failures. I've faced the sort of failures that I think a lot of people have faced. I've had times where I've made people angry or upset. I've had times where I've taken risks and they haven't panned out. And I've tried things with the hope that they would end up the way I want them to end up, but they haven't. I do a lot of creative stuff. I have way too many creative projects. I'm working on a book right now. I'm working on a script for a movie. I've been working on several card games. I'm working on a coding project. I have so much going on all the time. I lose track of it myself very often. I have tens of thousands of words written in notes for various projects. I do a lot of creative stuff. And I have found that things that I think are going to work don't always work the way I hope. Let me give you some examples. So just for a small example, recently I was building a card game, and I wrote it all down, and I had this vision, and I wanted to execute it, and so I did everything I could. I wrote down rules. It seemed quite promising, and I took it all together, printed it out, and got it all ready, and then I tested it, and it didn't work. Even though everything on paper seemed perfect, in execution it wasn't enough. It wasn't as fun as I had hoped. It worked, it didn't break or anything, but it just wasn't that fun. And that was a failure. I had an expectation and it didn't line up with that. I've experienced some other failures. Last, or no, 2 years ago, I made a short film. Still my favorite creative project I've ever done. It's a film called Filming Whole. You can find it on my other channel, or just look it up. Filming Whole is, as far as I can tell, an original title, so it should be the first thing that comes up, or one of the first. And it's a it's a horror film, about 30 minutes. It's a horror film set in a storm sewer. It's shot in a first-person format, so it's found footage style. If you've ever watched like Blair Witch Project or anything like that, it's that same style. So one of the characters is holding the camera, and they go with their friend into this storm sewer, and shenanigans ensue, and maybe not everyone makes it out alive. It's a cool concept. I went out and I made it, and I think it turned out really well, actually. I think, considering it's the first time I've ever tried something like that, it was great. But it has problems. It's not a perfect film. It could be better. And similar to the card project, I think a lot of it was just the way I built it. It wasn't as engaging as it could have been. I could have introduced new elements to make it better. So even if I filmed it perfectly, precisely as I envisioned, the vision itself was still flawed. So, although I don't consider that to be a waste of time or anything. Of course it's not a waste of time. I love that film. Like I said, it's my favorite project I've ever made. But it was in some ways a failure. And just for one other example, and this is going to really tell you what kind of stuff I get up to. I live in a city where there's a very large hill, like a massive hill, like 11 square kilometers or something crazy like that. And I looked at that hill one day and I said, what if we did Manhunt on there? Just a big game of Manhunt. And so I got to work, because I'm an interesting individual. I decided to actually try and do that. So I organized this whole event. I went out, I made a map of the whole hill, and I labeled it with different zones, and I came up with all these rules for how you play. And I got all the people I could together to do it. It was about like 15-ish people who were there, so a good amount. And we played, and about halfway through the event, everyone got too tired to continue, myself included. And so we kind of just had to end it, because everyone was too tired to keep going. And so that was a failure. I had a vision, and it didn't end up happening the way that I envisioned. That one's a little different. I think there are ways I could have done it better, but I think once again the vision, that was flawed in and of itself. You can't play a game of Manhunt in one day on 11 square kilometers of ground. That's too much ground. The thing that I wanted to do just wasn't going to be as fun as I ever hoped. So I think I've done a lot of things, and I've tried many times with a vision in mind to execute my vision and make it happen, but what I find over and over again is that my visions aren't perfect, and it never happens exactly the way that I hoped it would happen. Usually it's not as good as I hoped it would be. Sometimes I get closer. I have one creative project that I made on my channel recently. It's about 10 or 11 videos. 10 video project, that's what I call it, a TVP. That I just decided one day, I want to make 10 videos, and so I just brainstormed, and I decided that I would make them all connected in a bit of a storyline, just a loose one. And then I went out and I made all the videos across a few months and posted them, one every week for 10 weeks. And, it ended up pretty much exactly like I hoped. I mean, it didn't go crazy or anything. I didn't like gain a bunch of views or anything. Some of the videos only gained a couple views, but I executed it and it turned out pretty much exactly like I hoped. And so in that case, it wasn't like better than I was hoping for, but it was pretty much exactly what I, I, I wanted it to be. So that's good. But in a sense, I actually think what I value more than something like that is when I create something and it ends up not as good as I hoped. I think that's more valuable. And, I know it's not a new view to say, oh, failure is a great thing. You learn so much through failure. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of true. When I look back, I look at the manhunt on the big hill, and that, I feel like now I better understand the limits of a big group game like that. I'm not going to try and make another game that takes place across 11 square kilometers of ground. If I do it again, I'm going to make it more small in scale, and I'm going to have better rules in place to make sure that everyone stays energetic and no one gets wasted in the sense that you're tired, not wasted in the sense that you're wasted. Um, I'm just there. I know I can do it better, and when I look at the film, well, I learned so much through that. I learned how to actually make a film, like not completely because it was a pretty unusual one, but compared to the nothing I had before, now I have something to work off of. So that was a really, really valuable project. And I can look at it and I can see the flaws and I can say, okay, next time I'm not going to do that. And I look at this card game and I know why it wasn't fun. I wrote it down. I know what needs to be fixed. And I know that the vision itself for that card game is flawed, but I can come up with a better vision. And then I can try it and see if it works. And if not, just keep on going. And, not all projects are as easy to execute as a card game. But even if they take a lot of work, like the film did, that took a lot of work, or the Manhunt game, it's still worth doing those just to do them, just to see how it goes and learn from it, and maybe get people to have fun making it, or to have fun watching it happen. In the case of, well, have fun watching it in the case of the film, because people did watch it. It was mostly just the other person that I made it with. He was most of the views for that video just because he would like have it running on loop. But I feel like a few other people probably saw it. Um, I don't know for sure though. The internet can be confusing. But anyway, um, it's a good thing to try things because that's how you get better. Everyone says that, I know. But I'm telling you from my experience, it is true. That's how you improve. And so I think a super underappreciated skill, at least from what I've seen, is not a skill, but a discipline, a practice, an idea to pursue. It's just the idea of taking risks, the value of taking risks, the value of trying things even though you don't know that they're going to pan out. That is such a valuable thing. Such a valuable thing. I mean, I'm talking anything in your life. If you ever get an opportunity to do something, and kind of like I was saying with the last video, it's outside of what you've done before, even if you know it might not go the way you hope, it's still worth doing because you're going to get better as a result of that. Like I think a weakness I've had for a while is that I'm very slow to engage with romantic things. If I like someone, I'll take a while to ask them out. But I've had cases where I did take that risk. I went for it and I was pretty uncertain, but I felt like it was a good thing to do, and so I took that risk. And it didn't pan out. It was a failure. I didn't get what I was hoping for. But the amount of experience I got from that made it completely worth it. Completely. I would never take it back and say I shouldn't have done that. Everything in life is like that. Take those risks. Try those things. Even if you know you're going to fail, even if, like most writers, you'll slam your your shoulder against the door over and over, hoping to break through with a little bit of luck and find a tiny bit of success, even if it takes extreme effort. Go for it. Yeah. All right. Um, where did I leave off with my last video? When did I post that? Oh, it was like 8 days ago. Did I mention that the big project went well? Maybe I didn't. I forget when I record things, but I had like a big academic project that was bringing me a lot of grief. Lots of reading, lots of work there. I got through that. I'm good now. It's actually been very restful in the last a week, just with not much work going on at all. I've had a lot more free time to do things like this and explore other creative projects like card games and coding stuff and all that jazz. It's been nice. Um, Lots of big projects coming up, so that's not great, but they'll happen when they happen. And if I don't do well, if I don't get an A, that's fine. Again, it's a failure and it's a good one, but also I'm graduating, so none of that matters. Yeah, all right, that's all I've got to say. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting me just by being present and listening to what I have to say. And thank you to this mic for being here. I just thought I'd point it out because it's a really good mic. I guess if you're curious, it's Sennheiser MKE 600 shotgun mic. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm going to make a film with this and it's going to be great. I should stop saying that because I don't actually know that I'm going to make that film. Summer's going to be kind of crazy and things are going on. But anyway, I would like to make a film with this. And maybe I'll make smaller films. Maybe I don't have to make that film. But this guy, I wanted to shout him out because he is the real MVP of this whole operation. Okay, anyway, thanks. I'll see ya in the future, and goodbye.